Medical Report. We'll be joined in a moment with Phyllis Schlafly from the Eagle Forum. Of course, you probably heard her commercial. She's a amazing, eminent constitutional attorney, and of course, she introduced Donald Trump recently at one of his major conferences. She frames the issues so clearly that anybody really can't waver in terms of the logic and the evidence and the history that she presents. So, Phyllis, I'm sure will have some amazing comments. I wonder, do we have Phyllis Schlafly ready to roll? I don't hear Phyllis, so I assume that we're just going to go on what we have so far. Let's have a look at some of the news items that are going on today in the top stories first. We do have Phyllis. Wonderful. Welcome to the program, Phyllis Schlafly.
Hello, Dr. Bill. Good to talk to you.
Your name and reputation precedes you, and I saw you also presenting the introduction to Donald Trump, and you always make them, I would say, one of the clearest statements for constitutional government, for the operation of law, and for the forced, what I call segment of government, which is us, being both politically and legally active, to make certain that we keep our politicians and our servants under our charge. You've done an amazing job.
And when I talked to Trump, I urged him to support the Republican platform, which I think is the best statement we've had in a long time.
Right. Now, let's go through some of the Republican platform as to what, because what I'm really concerned about is that Donald Trump, to me, is like a miracle. The man is speaking honesty. He raises issues. He's starting to crystallize his specific plan, whether it's health care, the borders, etc. The issue yesterday with the attack in Brussels makes it very evident that we have an open border with a completely incompetent president who doesn't care how many people are harmed or injured or killed by Al-Qaeda. And the statement, of course, that they make against Trump saying he's a racist, which nothing could be further from the truth. He just wants to prevent extremists coming in here that are going to do harm to America and the Constitution. It's amazing the ridiculous statements made against Donald Trump. So
that's right, and the American people are with Trump on that issue. They don't want all this riffraff coming in. A lot of them are military age. They're willing to do dangerous things to kill our people, and we want somebody to protect us from that.
Exactly. Now, so let's frame the issues that you want to see Trump endorse. I get publicly. I looked at his last speech with AIPAC. When I looked at the media, it's like, did they see the same speech I saw? I thought it was presidential. I thought it was amazing. Even the announcement that his daughter was about to deliver a baby the same day he had the AIPAC speech, a little beautiful Jewish baby, and yet the media tried to rip into Trump saying, and there were even people trying to say he's a Nazi. It's like, are you on the same planet as I am? I mean, where are they coming from?
That's right. And, of course, the press is very much opposed to Trump, and so is the Republican establishment, as well as the Democrats. However, I think the people are with him.
Right, I know that. Now, what I'm very concerned about is that the Republican Party is so suicidal they'd rather work with Hillary Clinton than actually Trump. And that Trump will probably get the nomination most likely before Cleveland, but I'm very concerned it'll be a squeaker election with Diebold and a little bit of tweaking with the election fraud and the fancy fandangling behind the scenes. I really am very concerned that Trump may not make it as president, and if he doesn't get in, we have Hillary.
I'm very concerned. The establishment is so opposed to him. They will do anything, and they've been working for months to get rid of him, and they've tried every trick in their book, and they can't do it. And the only thing left is to cheat at the convention itself, and I think they're well prepared and planning to do that.
I don't think they're going to make it, because I have a feeling that the numbers are stacking up in Trump's favor, so that before the Cleveland, he's going to have the numbers. But I'm concerned if they continue this game past June, that they are going to deep six the chances of any Republican getting in as president, including Trump or Cruz.
Well, that's right. Of course, if they destroy Trump, and he's nevertheless won the Republican convention, that means they're going to elect Hillary.
Now, describe, because you've had many years of experience, and you're one of the top constitutional attorneys in American history. What do you see is happening if Hillary gets in? Because her yawn response to Brussels, and the same with the Abominator, who literally was there in Cuba doing, the wave. I mean, the attitude of him is like, this guy, is he our leader? What is he?
You mean Obama?
He's like a late-night TV host who just happened to slide in and pretend he's the president. It's ridiculous.
Yes. He has no love for America, and he does not want America to be, one of the most important things that I slipped in to the Republican platform this last time around was the term military superiority. We not only want to be strong, we want to be the best. And if we're the best, nobody's going to push us around. But Obama doesn't like that. In fact, I think he wants us to be just as bad as everybody else.
He wants to deconstruct America, both morally, militarily, economically, and of course, if you have an open border, you don't have a nation. Now, I hear people, and I want to hear your opinion on this. I hear people that say they don't want a wall. Now, when Trump made the comment he wanted to stop the drugs coming in to New Hampshire, which is primarily heroin, I happen to be had a presidential level clearance with the security special projects. In fact, I took care of Delta Force and special ops. And I took care of also the pilots flying out of Buckley-Peterson Air Force bases in Colorado. And they would come back for those jets loaded to the gunnels with heroin on shrink-wrapped on pallets. And I can tell you, Trump needs to not only build a wall, which will stop the next 100 million people, emigres that are trying to get in here, many of them Muslims that are doing Hiraj, trying to take over the country. But also, if you want guest workers, you want to send them bottled water in air-conditioned buses. You don't want them dying in the desert. You certainly don't want violent criminals or OTMs other than Mexicans getting across here with illegal Syrian passports.
And they have no way to vet these people when they're coming across.
No. Right,
they don't have any paperwork. We don't know where they're coming from. They're coming
no,
in
they have paperwork,
numbers.
but it's false. They have false paperwork from Syria. The 2 printing presses were captured by Al-Qaeda in Syria that print the Syrian passports. People coming in from there literally by the thousands. They're Muslims, and there are these we call cells that they can activate at any time. The word yesterday, late in the news, was there was 400 of these Syrian, Iraqi, Sunni terrorists for ISIS and ISIL inside Europe now, ready to do major terrorism beyond Brussels. So what I see happening here in America is these sleeper cells are making bombs in their basement. They're getting ready to be suicide bombers in airports and shopping centers and so on. And they think they're going to bring America to its knees. I think they're in for a big shock, because I think what we need to do is we're going to find out that we need, number one, even before he's finished, Obama should be impeached. We should close our border immediately. We should build a wall, but also we need to make sure we vet people coming through our seaports or airports, etc. And it's not just a wall. We got to stop
overstaying their visas too.
Right, exactly. Firstly, this visa program where they're not even properly vetted is insane. For example, the Sanarov brothers, we were warned by the Russians even 2 years before they did their terrorism. We've been warned about. We know that this wife of the lady that did the terrorism from Afghanistan, she came with one of these travel visas that didn't properly get vetted. What are we thinking? I mean, are we crazy? Yes, we're crazy.
And
Obama
another one is the asylum. It's just a racket, the way people come in and claim they're subject to persecution. And, that's the way the Boston bombers got in, a phony claim of an assignment.
But the persecution by Obama of Christians trying to get in, which are actually being beheaded and killed in Syria and Iraq. There's actually an attorney who was originally from Iraq, who's an American citizen legally, and this attorney has been harassed for 7 years. I'm going to get him on the program talking about this, where they harass Christians coming in. But boy, the Muslims, come on in, because I believe that Obama is a closet Muslim. The man is absolutely working, and of course we look at Hillary. Her first lady, by the way, this is a joke. Her first lady is Ummah Abedin. Her mother actually founded the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay? So we wonder why we're having problems. It's crazy. We don't need to go wondering very far.
We need a strong man to close the border.
Exactly. Trump is the man, not Cruz. Trump. And he'll do it. He'll also get the CIA and the FBI and the Department of Justice stop him bringing in $2 trillion of drugs.
You're absolutely right, Dr. Bill.
So Phyllis, the issues this year, I think, are the most critical since the founding of the United States. And a lot of people worldwide don't realize if the American election goes wrong and we have Hillary in there, which is what the Republican Party are trying to guarantee by all this backroom garbage, because this has never happened before in American history. When a candidate is this far ahead, Trump and even the possibility of Cruz, both of them are rejected by the establishment. If those people are disenfranchised that back up these candidates, America is going to go into a tailspin. It's going to get ugly. And we're in the edge of an economic morass. We're on the edge of a war in the Middle East that both Hillary and Obama are actually amplifying because they're supporting ISIS and ISIL on the one hand with armaments and material and are buying through the G20 nations the oil. On the other hand, they're criticizing extreme Islam and saying they're going to be peacemakers. These people are crazy. And the Russians kind of see through this. They go in for 5 months, clean up the mess, say, now we're out of here. They got their bases all set up so they have to. They can come back in a weekend. Right now, they're not going to do regime change. Obama basically was determined, we're going to have World War III or regime change. And I'm just thinking, Obama is psychotic. This man is evil. And Hillary is even 10 times worse. And if she gets in there, look out. Let me tell you, she'll have her hand on the tiller, she said in her comments about Obama that he doesn't have his hand on the tiller. We are going to have an obsessive-compulsive, Satanist, high-level witch running the country. And it's, it's not a matter if she's female. There's lots of good female candidates for president that could be running, and we're not talking about Carly Fiorina. We're talking about really good people. The problem is this woman is so corrupt. She has a trail of death and destruction and corruption behind her that go on for miles. In fact, if Trump gets at her, it's going to be unbelievable, this election cycle, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. And as mild-mannered Jeff Sessions said, this election coming up is the big one. It's the one that's going to decide what kind of future America has. And that's why I'm for Trump. And I urge all the people who care about what I think to vote for Trump.
Exactly. Now, what do you think we can do to get the Republican Party to get on side and realize that, to be honest with you, after this election cycle, if they do manage the Deep Six, either if he gets a nomination, they try to make sure that Hillary gets in. I see the end of the Republican Party. I think it's finished. I also see the end of the Democratic Party, because even Barry Sanders has more votes, but with the corrupt system they have over there, Hillary Clinton's, would be between that and Diebold and her buddies, she's going to get the nomination despite the fact that even on the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders is way more popular. It's crazy.
Yeah,
so I think
right.
Both parties are finished. I think both parties are done. This election cycle is ending the two-party system, which I call two sides of the belly of the same snake.
Well, I don't know whether I agree with you on that, but
I'm saying that because in other words, I'm talking about the high-level connections between, like even
the
establishment
head of the Senate said he can work with both Republicans and Democrats. And they don't really care which one wins the election because they still will be in charge, and they do it by passing out huge wads of money.
Right. Now, what do you think is going to happen this year that we can do, Phyllis, because you're very wise in this? What can we do to put, a choker on the Republican Party to say, get on sides with Trump now, so he can start directing his criticism to Hillary instead of constantly fighting against the Republican Party who's trying to destroy his candidacy and his chance at the presidency?
Well,
what can we do?
I think we've got to make it clear that we're not going to put up with any shenanigans. If Trump wins the magic number of 51%, you've got to accept it. And anybody who doesn't accept it, there's something the matter with you.
Right. Well, I think what we need to start doing is pro se litigant actions. We have Dr. Fred Graves on here regularly, and I know you're an attorney. But I think that when citizens start filing, thousands of pro se litigant actions and start going after the RNC if they want to do rule changes and other things, and also start doing things like trying to recall senators and congressmen to try to put what I call corrupt bills through, like they tried to put this dark bill through. It only was beaten by one vote, which means the federal government would have preempted states from writing up genetically modified notifications to the public about things in their food. That's crazy. I'm an environmental physician. I can tell you, this is an obscenity. There's no word around it. And anybody who supports something like that is a criminal.
Well, I don't know enough to comment on that. But I think that if Trump gets just kind of right on the money, on the 50%,
right,
and people don't accept that, and the people try, and the overture comes from the big boys who want to change that. We should have just an uprising, and let them know we're not going to put up with that.
Well, I think there should be, basically, if you want to call it, protests across the country. But I almost think we should start protesting now rather than waiting until they do even more damage to what's going on. And I don't understand why Kasich thinks that he has an impossible statistical chance. I saw the program last night.
I think he's playing for vice president.
Right, but the thing is, how can he be vice president when he's making so many attacks against both Trump and Cruz? I don't understand it, What kind of a vice president do we make?
Well, he thinks he's Ohio, and Ohio's important. Well, I'm just speculating on what he thinks. I'm not a mind reader.
Yeah, I know. I just don't understand his logic because, what kind of relationship would he have with either one of these men if they're president if he's, attacking them and showing that his policies are diametrically opposite on a number of issues?
But
this is not going to go.
Cruz is mathematically unable to reach the 51% now. And so I think he ought to get out and quit mudding up the situation.
You're talking about Cruz and Kasich, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because Cruz needs 83.7% of the rest of the delegates in order to be able to win the presidency.
And mathematically, I don't think he can do it.
No, I don't think so either. And I'm wondering what his policy is. In fact, if he was wise, it would be a Trump-Cruz presidency, and they would stop all this bickering back and forth and attacking each other's wives. They would actually just say, we have a lot of similar policies, let's move forward. This would really put a stymie on the globalist, wouldn't it, if all of a sudden he becomes his running mate instead of his competitor?
Well, when I talked to Trump, I told him that Cruz would be a great appointment to the U.S. Supreme Court. He's immensely qualified for that. And that's where he ought to be, not as president and vice president.
Right, and he's got a legal mind, and he's very smart. I just don't know if he's got the constitution to be an attorney or a leader.
Well, we certainly have to be very careful as to who
That's our opinion
appoint.
Anyway. Right. So, yeah, I think so. And, of course, he'd be very conservative. So the first thing that I think that we need to do is we need to be contacting our local political offices of the Republican Party to get their act together.
Yes.
We need to start getting ready in the next month or so for protests in case they try to dump Trump. We need to be petitioning Mr. Kasich to drop out and Mr. Cruz to make reparations so these guys maybe can make peace and maybe a deal. Phyllis, I'm going to speculate that if President Trump takes office, his first call will be to Carrier, because he said he wants to do it himself. He doesn't want to hand it off to one of his negotiators to make sure Carrier air conditioning comes back. He said, I don't care in the Arizona speech if they come back to Arizona or back to their, I think Wisconsin was where they were. He said, or Ohio, I'm not sure where the company was. He said, but they got to come back to America. But I think a second phone call will be to Mr. Putin to say that we can collaborate to get rid of these extreme Muslims. And we don't see cooperation from Obama. It's ridiculous. I mean, what do they want to wait until there's a nail bomb goes off or a nuclear bomb goes off and say O'Hare Airport and 500,000 people are dead? I mean, and Obama, what he'll do is he'll just say, well, we need to have a domestic security bill, and because Congress and Senate are so corrupt, they'll pass whatever the heck he wants. And he'll become pres for life if he can preempt even the elections. That's how crazy the system is now. We need to talk about it before it happens so it doesn't happen.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I want you to tell your listeners to clue into my website, eagleforum.org, so they can get the latest of what I'm thinking.
Tell me where you're projecting in the next month or so, what issues are going to come up that need to be dealt with. Because right now it's getting into muck. The first day I come out from a super PAC attacking Melania, the wife of Donald Trump, and he responded basically saying, this came out in a specific timing, right when the Utah primary was happening. And, of course, Cruz took that, of course, with the blessing of crazy people like Romney and Glenn Beck, who probably should belong in a psychiatric ward for the comments he makes about the stabbing will not stop. I mean, I don't know why the FBI didn't visit this man and say, you need to spend some time in a psych ward, not just in a regular cell. Why is Cruz not immediately absolving and apologizing for this attack on Melania, and then he's trying to defend his wife when all that Trump is saying is exactly the facts, that she's on leave from Goldman Sachs and she's a CFR member.
Yeah,
that is important.
Right. In fact, wasn't she the one who actually wrote the draft to put us into the North American Union?
Yes. Yeah,
well, that was a terrible idea. As you can look at the EU and see why we're so happy we rejected that. I spent a year of my life fighting that, and I felt it was a big victory when we got the Americans to stop talking about that.
Well, you know, this whole NAFTA thing, including the Trans-Texas corridor, etc., they just broke it up and called it something else. And this is even during the time of Governor Perry in Texas.
I always thought the Germans were pretty tough, but Angela Merkel let all these creeps in, and they're paying a terrible price for it.
I think that the Germans have been dumbed and persecuted so much over the Holocaust that they are so cowed now that they're only starting to wake up when their women are being raped and it's dangerous to go out in the street at night, and their little girls are being attacked. Then they're finally waking up. The fact is that if people don't want to see that happen here, and we have to understand there's probably thousands of mosques across America, the actual number is 72% are radicalized. We need to be sitting in these mosques to hear the imams in their language, and if they say something wrong, they need to go to prison. We need to start calling through these people and finding out their activities. We need to find out if they're acquiring materials for making bombs, including nails, chemicals, etc. We need to start making house visits. And we need to start pretending we do need to have a surveillance society of Islam, because if Islam is going to become less dangerous, only 5% of the Muslims are here in America probably are what we call radicalized to the point where they're going to do something, but 72% of the imams and these mosques are radicalizing. So their engine is to literally recruit people born in America to do great harm to us. And the way to stop it is to sit in their talks, and if they say something wrong, you're going off in a van to the big house. And the same way with Muslims that need to be deported. There's a lot of them here we call OTMs, other than Mexicans, that are getting in here, have no right to be here at all. And if we actually had a full background check on a lot of these people, there would probably be hundreds of thousands of them be deported. The ones that don't want to be radicalized, like I saw a program a month ago, where one of the imams, it's a moderate Muslim, which is kind of an anomaly, but he's moderate, he got fired from his mosque in Houston, and he told the announcer on Fox News that over 170 imams that are moderate like him got fired the same week, just in Houston. So moderate Islam cannot struggle away from this beast, because if they speak out, they're going to get a fatwa put on them, or threats that they're going to be killed or be persecuted by their own imams and their mosques. That's why we have a structural problem here.
Yes, we do, and we have Trump to thank for bringing the immigration problem to the forefront of America, and it is the number one issue today, and we can thank Trump for that. He's the one who made it the number one issue. But remember, he's absolutely right.
This started with LBJ after the assassination of John F. Kennedy with the immigration bills. That started to talk about qualifications rather than cultural immigration. We should have cultural immigration from countries where they're typically like us, i.e. from
and want to be Americans.
And want to be Americans, like Spain, Ireland, England, Scotland, countries, Australia, New Zealand, where they want to be Americans. They have skill sets.
And they can speak English.
They can speak English, and they're not going to come in our culture and set up no-go zones or try to crawl for Sharia law. I mean, you go to Deerfield, Michigan. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and some of these places are obscene. You know, like it's like in France. There's areas that are called no-go zones. You don't go there. The police don't go there.
In London, they have no-go zones.
Right. What do they think is going to happen? And the thing is that they're populating so fast, the average Muslim man, once they have enough income, has 4 wives and 14 children. What do they think is going to happen? It's a matter of numbers. One generation from now, Europe, at its current rate, will be fully Muslim, with 500 million plus people, advanced technology, and an intention to take over the world. Do they think that can't happen? This is 2016. What about 2036? 20 years from now, Europe will be fully Muslim. And we have, by the way, our space weapon systems integrated with Europe, with the European Space Agency. Do you really want to have 500 million people with advanced technology taking over all of Europe with the rest of the culture completely destroyed? and the nation state's gone because they're no longer, any viable nations, because that's what they had in the European Union. You didn't have to have a passport to go from one country to another. How crazy?
Yes, the crazy thing is they let everybody go walk free through the European Union. That was a terrible mistake.
Well, they should realize without a border, you don't have a country. Without a country that's tied to a culture, you don't have a culture that can be preserved.
Having a border is the mark of a sovereign nation. And we want our sovereignty, and we have every right to decide who comes in and who stays out. Right.
Now, we have some really good friends that are Hispanic that came here legally and are working, like our cleaning crew that come here today. They're Americans, or we've got American work visas. We want people legally to come in here. We want good people to come here that want to have good families and are Christians. We want them. We don't care what nationality. They can be black, white, yellow. I don't care. What we want is we want people who are going to mix with our culture and become Americans, study the Constitution, and believe that America is a great nation because of the principles we stand for. We don't want people to come in that won't mix like water and oil like Muslims. We don't want people to come in here that are terrorists of any kind of stripe. And we don't want to have a situation where we become also a place for economic refugees to rise, so we have 100 million people that we can't absorb into our culture. That's what's going to happen in the next 20 years. And people like Obama, if he could have more than one term, and he's trying to do this with Hillary and more Democrats, it's going to get obscene. I mean, people don't understand. Yes, we need a wall, but we also need to stop the CIA and the Department of Injustice and the FBI from bringing in $2 trillion of drugs. They're doing this because it's off the books, Tier 1 science, underground bases, off-world space projects, trillions of dollars into weird genetic projects, etc., which I'm very familiar with because I have presidential level clearance. And I can tell you, it's too damn crazy. And people say, well, you're just a conspiracy theorist. No, you out there, if you don't believe what I tell you, you're an idiot, and you're going to suffer dearly, and you're probably going to die prematurely if you let this continue to happen. That's what I say.
You got to realize that a lot of these people have to be deported, and they say that's impossible. And I invite you to go to my website, eagleforum.org, where you will see how Eisenhower loaded the too many refugees on railroad cars and shipped them back to Mexico. And if Eisenhower could do that, we can do it too.
Sure you can. Exactly. And we can, if we want to help people in their countries, let's help to build their own industries, not to try to just move our industry there and destroy our economy. It's ridiculous.
Dr. Bill, I think somebody's signing you off here.
No, we're back on. So, Phyllis, and your closing statements, your forum is eagleforum.com, right? And they can get your...
eagleforum.org.
Eagleforum.org. Tell us what issues you think are going to come up in the next few weeks, because we have some more primaries. I think...
Well, the big issue is immigration. And that's the issue that has brought Trump
now, do you think that,
and I'm for him.
Do you think we can do it by apply pressure? Because that really needs to happen now. I'm extremely concerned that there's going to be what I call post-Brussels major, multiple 9/11 type events across America. And I think Obama will try to seize it to pass a bipartisan domestic security bill. What I'm concerned is, while we're kind of ramping up toward the elections, we're also ramping up toward major terrorism on American soil. They shut down a section of DIA at the same day as they had this Brussels thing. And by the way, it happened on the Feast of Purim, which is when Haman tried to kill off all the Jews in ancient history. So it's very timely that we're in a situation now where we're basically approaching Pesach or Passover, where the death angel passed over. And I see, this weekend is Easter weekend, and what I see coming is very concerning. It may preempt elections. It may move us to some form of martial law.
Yeah, because the people who hate us hate Christianity too. Exactly.
And when I hear the Pope talking about Chrislam, about Christianity and Islam, I'm sure most of the bishops and the cardinals and so on are freaking right out about this, which is, as you mentioned on the break, ex-cathedral. It's not Catholic Christianity. It's insanity, isn't it?
Yes, it certainly is. So all the political statements of the Pope, you have permission to ignore.
That's good. Well, that's wonderful. Now, what issues do you think, other than this immigration, how can we apply pressure to immediately do something that Trump's already suggested, which is to selectively close the door to Muslim immigration and to start searching through these mosques and start doing some form of surveillance? I saw what I call the walking skeleton, otherwise known as Obama. The man, I think, has lost even more weight. He even looks more cachectic. And I looked at him, I said, I can see all the bones in his skull when he was there in Cuba. And I think he's yawning through this disaster in Brussels. It's disturbing. He's yawning through it.
Well, I think if more people would vote for Trump, and we could make sure he's well over the 51%, that
Right.
will reduce the possibility of a revolution in this country over the machine. Because I think if people think the election is stolen from Trump, it will be a very bad day for our country.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know how bad it'll get. I mean, I don't think Trump is endorsing violence in any way, shape, or form. That one man who was 72 years of age that popped a guy with the dreadlocks, who was cursing at him, spitting at him, and giving him the middle finger right in his face, I don't think I'd have the restraint not to pop him in the chops as well. So when they try to say that Trump is endorsing violence, no. These 12 people are coming here, an organized mob, which, by the way, is a federal violation of federal law to come to a stadium. They can have their signs outside and protest, but they can't come inside and cause disruption. It's actually a violation of federal law. So when someone comes in and literally cursing and swearing and trying to grab the mic, or that guy that grabbed Trump's leg the other day, I couldn't believe they released him after only 2 or 3 hours. And then he's getting interviews on the media, and the guy's YouTube and Twitter channels are like just on fire with crazy comments like, how come this guy is not arrested?
And has he become a media hero?
Yeah. I mean, I'm dumbfounded. Then we got this fool from Canada, Justin Trudeau. And I can tell you, I know Pierre Elliott Trudeau. His deputy prime minister was my great uncle. Okay, so I know all about what's going on in Canada. It's ridiculous. And Justin Trudeau looks better looking than his father. He looks like his mother, but he's just as wacky as his father, who's a globalist. You know, we have to understand, Justin Trudeau, there are even people falling at his feet saying that he should run for president. This is how ridiculous some of these people are. One day he's reciting the Shahada in a Muslim mosque in Canada. The other day next week he's actually walking in a gay pride parade. This man is a maniac.
Well,
he's an idiot. And when Obama has him come down, it's like his Canadian twin, is like, oh my God, Canada's going down the toilet too. You can hear the flushing sound. And nobody gets it. They think this guy's like this wonderful fellow that everybody should like, no matter what he's doing to the morality and the culture in Canada. And, of course, they don't have free speech. I had a show when I went back for a few years while I was doing my Genesis show. I also had a show in Canada on CTV radio. They threatened to arrest me for the same comments I make daily right now. Arrest me. We're going to come into the studios in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and arrest me for saying what I said. And I threatened them back. I said, don't dare it. I said, I'm a medical legal expert. I'll sue your butt off. I said, you watch in here and I'll be announcing on my radio show in America exactly what you're trying to do. They didn't do it, but they fired my co-host, shut off our show, and this is back in 2000 and, what was it now? That would be back in about 2006, before I came back here to California. I was up there for a few years. So people need to start grasping here, Canada is not a free speech country. It's under the hegemony of maniacs and globalists. And Justin Trudeau is an example of a degenerate culture that won't speak up and fight against these maniacs. That's where we're going if we get Hillary or whoever follows Hillary, because her health is...
we need leaders who will fight against the maniacs.
Right. And of course, Hillary, I don't think her health is going to hold up. The woman has a post-traumatic concussion syndrome. She's got double vision from her injuries. She's got Parkinson's. She's borderline diabetic, and she's hypothyroid. That's just to start with. And then she's having these coughing spells because I have a guest that's going to come on the program that can swear, who knows Bill and Hillary Clinton for years, that she and Bill are still cocaine addicts. That's why Bill Clinton can't speak, because he's blown, I know as a physician, he's blown his nasal passages all to hell, and I'm sure she's getting postnasal drainage because he's also got chronic rhinorrhea and inflammatory changes caused by excessive use of cocaine. And I have a person who actually will swear it right on air, who'll be coming on the program. First name is Sally. They've known the Clintons for decades. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the kind of president we're going to get. We have, of course, a chain of drug addicts. Last one after Obama was George Bush Jr., another burnt-out drug addict, and then Bill Clinton, who's always been a drug addict.
Well, no wonder they're so eager to legalize drugs.
Right. No wonder they're so willing to be corrupt, because the globalists won't put a person in position unless they can be manipulated because they have sexual deviations or drug addictions or some other way that they can be manipulated. It's just sickening.
Well, the establishment is manipulated primarily with money.
Right, but they'll do anything else
and
too.
money and position. And you know, one of the funny things somebody said was when Trump appointed his foreign policy advisors, one of these establishment people said, but we don't know any of these people.
Oh, jeez. Couldn't you believe it? I thought that these guys, I mean, if they were scriptwriters for Saturday Night Live, they'd have good material.
You're right.
It's like, you got to be kidding. You don't know any of these people because they're not in your little coven.
That's
They're not in your clique. They haven't taken the secret orders and oaths in the darkness of night, you know, a pool of blood and, you know, human flesh, God knows what. That's how crazy this is.
And I wish that some conspiracy theorist would investigate the very sudden death of Justice Scalia.
Well, you know what I like to say, and I'll do this in my Italian, my mafioso. Justice Scalia sleeps with the fishes. I can guarantee you that there's a number of anomalies. The fact that they didn't do an autopsy on the man, because I'm a forensic doctor as well, a medical legal expert as well, I can tell you that with his position, it should have been a constitutional demand.
Yes.
I mean, that they had an autopsy.
Yes.
Everything on this smells. Everything about it smells. And the fact that this one, Judge Cinderella, I mean, what kind of a name is this? Like a nightmare? Judge Cinderella just signs off and she doesn't even actually examine the body or hear anything. Says, yeah, he was old, he had heart disease, therefore, we don't need to do an autopsy. Are you kidding? You're kidding.
Somebody said he had a pillow over his head.
Yeah, to me, that was also reported. But the fact, there's lots of ways of telling signs, but you need to have somebody on the scene immediately to look at the scene first and take photographs and evidence. And then you need to actually get him off really quickly before they, start draining out his blood and putting in formaldehyde and getting him ready for either a coffin or for cremation.
Right.
The fact they didn't do it, I mean, that smells of high heaven. And the fact that even Obama didn't even attend the funeral, he had some other thing he had to go to. You're kidding.
Dr. Bill, you keep people going to my website, eagleforum.org.
Eagleforum.org, thank you.
On the news.
Absolutely, and we'll have you back on soon. You're an amazing lady. I'm really proud of all the work you've done over the decades to keep America. It's people like you, now with Trip, but it's people like you that keep America great. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you, Dr. Bill. Have a good day.
Yeah, hour number 2 coming up is Open Lines. Hour 3, Tim Alexander, and I have heard from Chris Harris. We're going to do a follow-up on 5th year on Fukushima Daiichi. My article and my book are coming along nicely, and they're scary as hell. But we'll talk about solutions here. Hour 2 is Open Lines, 800-259-5791.